Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
Because, I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a chance to even have a conversation. We have these text conversations all the time, and they're always awesome. They're always everything that you and I would normally have said sitting in a car drinking 40s like 15 years ago. But
the Steel Reserve.
Yeah, but like it's always chalked at like cut up and everything because I'm working, you're working, we're always busy. And
there's always so much you can put in text.
Yeah, man. And finally, after so friggin' long, we're actually face to face. Since your wedding, the last time I saw you was your friggin' wedding.
Holy crap.
Isn't that crazy, man? Like, but I mean, no offense. I haven't seen like anybody.
Oh yeah. No,
this is how I see people, unfortunately.
So that was, oh man, like 3.5 years ago.
No. What?
I've been married.
You got married that long ago?
I got married at the end of 2018.
My God. You know what's weird is because of the pandemic and shit, it's almost like time like collapsed. It's almost like that whole time frame is like, I don't know, minimized or something in my brain. It's just all one specific fog time period.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. I
can't believe it's been that long since we've been face to face. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But life's been really busy over here for sure. I'm sure. And I know that you can say the same.
Oh God.
We've been doing so much.
I'm like adulting and domesticated now. It's weird.
It is weird, right? I mean, it took me a little bit to get used to.
I never thought I never thought I would end up like where I am right now. Like I remember sitting in Dee's basement, like bawling my eyes out to Ashley, sitting there going, I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm never going to be anything. You know what I mean? Like just because I had a horrible track record of like just losing jobs and just being fucked up all the time.
Same here, man.
You know what I mean? Just waking up every day and like doing whatever I could to feel better, Yeah.
Yeah. And I think both of us would be able to blame tons of external things for why we initially felt the need to feel that way.
Oh yeah.
But of course, and like, even when you think about like healing from past traumas and stuff, it's like the first step is finding out, okay, yeah, these are the factors that caused me to get here.
Yeah.
But now it's time to, pull up my pants and be a fucking man and like, get over these things. And that process, can be delayed for however long the ego allows, right? Or demands,
So that was probably the biggest, like the turning point of my recovery. I was probably about like 4.5 months in. And I think I was talking to one of our friends and he said something and it clicked. I was like, oh, it's all my fault. And like, once I realized it, like, and I took accountability, it was, I don't want to say it was easy from there, but like, that's when everything started to really go uphill and like change for me gradually. I was able to own everything that I was doing wrong. And like, I could see everything I was doing wrong. And I just slowly began to fix it. It was definitely really enlightening. I changed my major. I got into substance use because I wanted to help people. And, I started from the bottom. My supervisor took a chance with me. He said I bombed my first interview. So, but he was like, he could tell that like I could do it. I don't know. He just said that to me. And then I got promoted 1, 2, 3 times. Today's my 3rd promotion and I'm a counselor now. Like I just graduated.
Great. Congratulations.
Yeah, but and I did all that in 2 years, and that would have never happened if I continued to just wake up every day and like, I gotta get high.
Right. So before we get too far ahead, let's say hi to my audience. Hi, everybody.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Welcome back to the Deep Share podcast. And I have a really special episode tonight where I get to talk to one of my lifelong best friends that I haven't had a chance to really see face to face in apparently like 4 years, which I thought was like 2, because time just warps now and doesn't exist and all kinds of shit. So please welcome Mike Depalo. And Mike, thank you so much for joining me, brother.
Thank you, Andy.
So long, but it's so good to see your beautiful face.
Yes, it's good to see you too, man. Hair's longer, beards are bigger.
Fuck yeah. Still things very much the same, but of course leaving behind a lot of bad behaviors that both of us used to do, that's why I knew this conversation was going to like go in a lot of good places, because both of us, not only were we best friends and our best friends, but like we had similar paths along the way where we we had a lot of failures before we realized we had to, as you were saying, the process of owning everything, man, is like, it's everything. And it reminds me of psychedelic experiences I had where, a lot of times in spirituality, a lot of different ways of looking at it, it seems like, it's all trying to kind of lift you off the ground. But when you really are doing the real work, it's actually the opposite. It's like you have to come back to the ground. You have to reground yourself and reestablish everything from square one.
Be in the moment completely.
Right, exactly. So let's give my audience a little background into, what you do now as a counselor, and then we'll kind of work from, what put you there. Of course, you gave a little taste of that, but we'll go into it further.
What I do as a counselor. All right. So I work in a residential program, a house with 15 guys. And my job is to assess them and talk to them, maintain their goals, and just be there as a support for them, 5 days a week. Sometimes I'm on call, but just really, it's just about support, positive reinforcement. Everything is person-centered, meaning like everything is based on them and what they want to do, providing it's a healthy behavior, of course, because everyone's journey is different. What works for some person is not going to, or may not work for another person, Right before this, I was doing outreach, so I worked with people in the community instead of being at a house. Before that, I did case management for the same organization, helping people with like their education, legal matters, finding housing, stuff like that. And before that, I was just direct care. I was just like I don't want to say grunt, but like person on the floor, just doing safety checks and forming relationships with them and stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
I've made a lot of cool relationships, and I learned a lot about myself through these people as well. It's very emotionally draining.
I can imagine.
It took me a while to separate work from home. Luckily, I have, a 40-minute ride to and from work, and I take this back road and just listen to music or your podcast, and I,
Cool.
just kind of like switch on and off for work and stuff.
That's needed, man.
Oh yeah, and then I don't know. That's pretty much what I do now. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, and of course, knowing you for as long as I have, and all the trials and tribulations both of us have kind of been through together and separately, this was always where I hoped we would end up, like trying to express all the amazing stuff we used to talk about and coalesce it into something meaningful in our lives rather than something destructive.
Yeah. Yeah, we did plenty of the destructive stuff for sure.
Yeah, we got it out of the way. We know it. We know what it looks like. I mean, as a parent, that's going to either help me or just push my son away. I think it's going to help for the most part someday.
No,
I
think it'll help for sure.
Yeah. Trying to be more of a mindful parent than past generations were used to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's getting better here and there. But
yeah, good.
But yeah, so shit, man, we go back. We have a long history together.
Oh yeah.
And so I met Mike at a massive, crazy two sides of the street, two houses, separate parties that just eventually merged into one.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful thing. A lot of like familiar faces and unknown faces mingling. And, back in the day, I think I was 18. Yeah. We were young. I was 21. No, you were
I was 21.
I think you were 21 when we met because it was the summertime. It was July. It was after I graduated.
Oh, so I had just turned 21 then.
Yes. Yes. You were the magic man. You were Magic Mike.
Oh God. Yeah.
Dude, the fate of our weekends landed on whether Mike was too tired or wanted to go to the liquor store for us.
I think I went the majority of the time.
You were such a trooper, man. You were our savior for so long. I mean, most of the time you were just with us anyway.
Oh yeah.
Causing the debauchery, so it was fine, but
it was every day. We got together every day. We used to sit there, and was it the Steel Reserve or the King Cobra? Oh my God.
Yeah. We had a friend that absolutely loved the Colt 45s. And you and I were partial to the champagne of beers. The King Cobra.
We used to sit in front of your house and try to drink them as fast as we possibly could.
Yeah, we were at this was, ladies and gentlemen, this was at an age where we were kicked out of all parenting houses. Like we were too old and stinky and loud to be hanging out in parent. Neither did we want to be there because, of course, they didn't want to deal with anything we were doing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we would have nowhere to go. Suburban life, man. It was like, you didn't really have many places to go other than the fucking bowling alley. So we would end up at Borders. Yeah. The bookstore parking lot and just, smoke and drink and, kind of do whatever. We were rebels,
drink,
right?
And talk about weird stuff.
Yeah, man. Deep psychedelic experiences. Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, so I remember when you first went to college, like after some of the crazy years had passed, and like you and another friend both signed up to go to like Salem State, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like that was gonna be the big life changer. And like I've had so many of those, like back then anyway, when I was like drinking heavily and all that. So many moments where it was like my last chance to my next turn.
Yeah, like this is gonna be it.
This is gonna be it, where my whole life's gonna change. Like you and me in particular, I recall so many conversations. Yeah, this is it, man. It's like both of us on both sides, like doing this over and over again. And I'm just curious, like, what did it take? Like, what were the depths for you emotionally, psychologically, cognitively? Where did you have to go? Where did you have to get to finally make this, to have your brain be able to really switch it off? Because folks, we're talking about addiction. Like me, it was alcohol specifically, and Mike had his issues with, you were drinking a lot with us too, but
yeah. So Salem State, that's when my drinking really picked up. Before that, I wasn't really a drinker.
We were just smoking.
I used that as like a social lubricant because I was terrible at talking to people. I was doing, at that time I was drinking a lot. That was mostly alcohol. Every now and then I'd smoke, smoke weed. That's when I first, like somebody gave me like a painkiller. And my brain got attached to that immediately. I remember calling the girl back and, do you have another one of those? And I couldn't process why I wanted it so bad. I just knew that I wanted it. Like I needed it, was like, yeah, just take this with a beer. And like from that moment on, I was just like, okay, I need this all the time. Because the way my brain works is if something feels good and I like it, I need it all the time as much as possible. Like, yeah. So
I know that feeling.
I mean, to skip ahead a whole bunch to get to try to answer your question the best I can.
Well, yeah, I mean, just in general, I mean, yeah, I guess how far into this did you feel you had to go to realize you had to come back out?
To the point where I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like years and years of waking up, where am I going to get pills? Who's going to sell me them? Where am I going to get the money? Canceling plans all the time because I didn't feel good. It was a constant, like when I say a roller coaster, it's an understatement. Like I was either at the highest highs or the lowest lows. And when you're at the lowest lows, it's like the worst feeling in the world. Like, it's horrible. Like you're sick. You don't want to get out of bed. And I remember I was at work and my cousin said to me, he's like, you're like two different people. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, I know that you just took something. Before that, you were quiet and miserable. And now you're like the nicest, funniest person in the world. And I said, if like something triggered in my head and at the same time, he said, I can get you help if you need it. And I was like, I just broke down. I went home. I told my now wife, she knew something was wrong, but she didn't know. I'll put it this way. If she takes a Benadryl, I have to check on her and make sure she's breathing because she's scared to take it. So she doesn't understand any of what I, went through, which, that's nothing on her. But I went home and I told her, and the next morning my cousin brought me to an outpatient clinic, and I've been sober ever since. So I guess what it took was just me finally hitting rock bottom. There were probably hundreds of other times I thought I hit rock bottom, but I really didn't.
And false rock bottoms.
It just kept getting deeper and deeper.
Right. Yeah. You're just creating new ones at that point.
Yeah. Like,
I can dig deeper. No, don't worry. I'll prove it to you.
Like, kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about like, this is going to be the time. This is going to be the time. It's like I had so many of those and so many letdowns, regardless of whether they were my fault or not, which most of them were. But, at the time, you're like,
it's this. And if only this wasn't happening.
If the world wasn't so, blah, blah, blah. But,
yeah, it's capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. I lost my train of thought.
That's all right, man. No, I mean, I think this is good, and I want this to be obviously as organic as we can make it. Because we're just bros. It's just been a long time, and it's just so good to hear you be able to tell this story now. Because I mean, I had my own experiences before. I think, but way before I had a severe drinking problem, I noticed your problem, and I remember one time. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was like so mad at you at one point when we were in the house together, and I was like, you know what? No, give me a line of that shit. And you're like, dude, no, you don't want to. I'm like, no, come on. I want to feel what you're going through. I felt like I was in a movie. I think I was drunk that time. And I was just like, yeah, come on, man, let me feel it. And then I did a line of it, and like it annihilated me because, someone that takes a few pills at first and then weans onto it and like starts to take it more and more. That's one thing. I mean, I just blew a big line of, whatever painkiller it was. And it's just like, that destroyed me for the rest of the night. I think you do. You remember better than I do.
Yeah.
I do remember you having to like put me on the couch for the rest of the night or something like that. Though I just like looked at you like, how do you do this?
I felt so bad about that.
All day. And
I felt so bad. I was like, I can't believe I just gave it to him. It was like I was contributing to your bad behavior.
Well, it's funny because luckily, nose stuff never seemed to stick with me as like addictive. For some reason,
that was my thing.
I liked Coke, but at the same time, I could, as soon as it wasn't around, it didn't matter anymore. It was fine. I have a lot more of an addiction to friggin' marijuana I say that often on the show that it's like, I think it's kind of silly that, I love that it's legalized in some place. I'm glad that it's, coming back into acceptable culture. But at the same time, this idea that it can't be addictive is fucking hilarious. I feel like I can't go to sleep without it. I know I could, but it's still that same ego. It's still the same one that runs the heroin addiction or the Percocet. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It's that same ego. Like Joe Rogan used to say, you can get addicted to cheeseburgers, right? I mean, it's literally any medium. It depends on, who you are, I guess.
You can get addicted to relationships. You can get addicted to porn, gambling.
Exactly.
I
mean, you can get addicted to good
pencils,
behavior too. We just maybe don't call it an addiction, is exercise. After a while, you start to really appreciate it.
Sure.
You can get addicted to anything.
Which can really put things into perspective. So like my opinion on weed or marijuana has actually changed significantly over the past month. I used to be like, no, it's just another thing. And like now I'm viewing it as like more of a spiritual thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like the same thing with like
oh
mushrooms
shit,
and stuff.
Mike, hang on a second. I gotta help my wife. Hang on.
Okay. So yeah, I used to think about marijuana as just like all the other drugs, but my opinion on it has changed significantly over the past month or two. Just I view it as more of like a spiritual thing. I haven't done it, but I view it as more of like a medical thing, I guess, because I started thinking it's like, well, do I take medication for, depression, anxiety, things like that? Like, yeah, appetite. I do. It's like, what's the difference between that and, say smoking weed or something to go to bed? You know what I mean? It's about knowing your limits, knowing what your demons are, and not doing things that are destructive. Right. Because you can have this is why I was saying this, to go back to what we were talking about earlier. You can have good addictions. You can have healthy addictions. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Right. Even though the word addiction is typically like not a good thing. I don't even know if I'm using it right, but you can have healthy things that you do frequently.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just, I don't know, it's something natural. It's never been like a destructive force in my life. Not the way pills or ecstasy or ketamine or meth, or I can go down the list.
I was there for you with you for a lot of that too.
Oh yeah, you were right there.
We were integral in experimentation.
I remember the drinking was a big thing, because I remember trying to help you with that, and because you got really bad for a while, and I felt like I was enabling you, but at the same time, like I couldn't say shit, because like I was doing horrible stuff too. So like, but at the same, I'm like, I love my friend. Like I can't watch him do this. So it was just a weird place to be in.
Oh yeah. I mean, and we lived together when I think you were still struggling, but you were very, very aware at that point in your life. And I knew it about you, of what your problems were.
Yeah.
You've been down the roads before. Yeah. And honestly, I was there too.
Yeah.
But I think alcohol is just in a cartoonish way, it's more offensive to everything. When you were, I remember the 2-person thing with you. I do a little bit.
Yeah.
The switch between but I remember that not just with pills. I remember that if you got drunk enough or high enough, you literally elevated back to that person. And I think in the same way, I was doing that same thing. I was trying to be that person I knew I could be, and felt like I needed the alcohol to do it. And man, was it destroying me in the opposite direction,
Nothing good comes from alcohol.
Nothing. It's ridiculous, man.
It's such a horrible, it's just, the things that we do and the things that we say and the people that we become are just it's not healthy. It's just not, it's horrible.
I look back at the beer nerd out stage of life that
with the homegrown special beers and stuff.
Yeah, man, we were all we were all always at the dive bar and everything,
Oh yeah,
always drinking the
the cool shit, the elite beers that no one's ever heard of, man. And now that's everywhere. That's exactly pop culture now. It's like,
Oh yeah.
you know, I think every major beer company now has like some bullshit label trying to act like they're some,
Oh yeah.
you know, microbrewery still.
Tree hop Billy Topper or something like.
Could be. Yeah, something along those lines every time. Yeah. And it's just like, it's funny because you think of like the crowd, the culture that was always at bars that we would go to in that vein, and bars that existed all over the country and still do in that vein, that very like, the look is counterculture, right? The look is totally counterculture, but it's like, it's driving a possible counterculture that would say what we're saying about alcohol into more of like, oh no, it's an art form, man. And it's like, it just kind
your
of,
brain tries to convince you of some interesting things when you want to get high or drunk. It really does.
Yeah, man. I look back at all the people that we were, you know, hanging out with. We were all just trashed all the time. And it's just like, there's no sophistication there. You can have your tiny little piece, you can have like your upscale hipster bars and everything, but it's like, you're still just getting fucking sloshed.
But think about the overall culture that alcohol has created, just even in the Western culture. Like, it's everywhere you look on TV, like every time you go out, it's like, oh, it's Friday, I have my glass of wine. Or I feel like it seems to me that most people can't go out of the house now and do something socially without drinking.
Yeah, specifically drinking, or maybe intoxication in general, right?
All right, we can say intoxication, but it's just alcohol. It just seems like it's everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm not seeing it as much because I'm like purposely so far away from it, but
could be.
I mean, everything. I mean, I just went to see somebody up north, like a cool presentation and everything, and yeah, it has to all be alcohol driven, and you know, it's just it's everywhere.
It's interesting that like people can sit there and look at someone, you know, look at themselves and like, I drink, you know, tons of alcohol, but I'm going to look down on somebody who does heroin. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. Like, what's like, yes, there's a difference, but there's also in the greater picture, there's not, you know.
It's part of that self-denial, probably. It's you know, it's just externalizing and projecting rather than dealing with your own demons, like you were saying before, right?
Yeah. A lot of people are going to listen to what I just said and be like, it's just crazy. He's comparing heroin to alcohol. And like, it's just, I don't know. That's just the way.
Well, I think a lot more people than you think might agree exactly with what you said, though, too.
It's poison.
I mean, at this point, I think more and more, especially the youth, I think are more, they're more driven towards like, you know, psychedelics and stuff like that. Well, I mean, again, I should take that back, because it really depends on the area, the culture, the subculture that's going on, and so there's meth everywhere too. So
oh my god, like I remember when I graduated high school, it was everyone drank or smoked weed. Like, I remember a year after I graduated, everyone was like doing coke and party drugs. I was like, what is happening? Like, there's like kids that we went to high school with just like dropping dead of overdoses. Like, it just blew my mind. I don't know.
It's weird too, because like our culture itself is like coming to like breaking points in every direction. Like no matter where you are, in what camp you're in, or if you don't feel like you're in any camp, there's like this sense of like liberty being taken, or something like that. Whether you're on my crazy side of the fence, or you're on like someone that like totally loves the administration that's in office right now. Like, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. There's somewhere that there's like this feeling of liberty being taken away. And I think as a culture, we're rebelling against that again, kind of like the 60s. And we're seeing a lot more acceptance of certain things. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. It's weird to see governments I don't trust, and healthcare industries I don't trust, suddenly championing psychedelics and being accepted.
Yeah, it really makes you think like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, and of course, all their use with MK Ultra and the '60s,
Yeah.
like LSD, of course, has been a part of it for a long time, and it's here it is again, like it's coming back, and it's interesting to see it out there because I mean, you and I have had our experiences with psychedelics, and you're
Mhm.
one of my only very close longtime friends that I can have conversations as deep as they go about psychedelics, and you're
Mhm.
right there with me.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful of people in the whole world I could say that about, And to what's your take on substances like that? As much as I love them and I revere what they've done for me in some ways, what do you think about that being given more credence to open society and kind of like more accepted, more less stigmatized? I mean, it could be good, could be bad. What do you think?
Well, what came to mind when you said that is, I mean, I was a history major too before I
Hell yeah.
switched. So psychedelics have been something that it's probably I would say the oldest form of yeah, I don't know if you want to use the term drug or whatever.
Sacrament.
Like it was used for religious purposes and like, just spiritual experiences, like for thousands of years, and I think there are some healing properties in there. And I do think that anything in moderation is, well, gotta be careful there. I'd say psychedelics in moderation is it's not for me because I don't know if I can't let go of my ego or what it is, but I just always have a bad time. It's
Did
just
you
not good.
yeah, but you got a lot of insight out of your trips.
Oh, I got mind blown insight. Like I remember sitting at a friend's house and I understood how we were all connected to this single life force, and it was the most calm I ever felt, even though I was looking at the clock and time didn't make sense to me anymore. I remember
Yeah.
it said like 2:31 or something, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
Right.
Like it doesn't even mean anything. And it was like I completely, whenever I was okay with it and everything, and not having like a bad trip, if you want to call it that, like
Yeah.
I just completely let go of trying to be me and just accepted what was happening in the moment around me. And it was beautiful. I mean, I wish I could remember more of it, but like it was just so, it was like I understood. I don't want to say like the meaning of life, but I just understood and accepted me. I don't know if
I like that. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I would say, because I like to talk a lot about fractal. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I understood like my place.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like
You know
that.
what I mean? Like my
Yeah.
place in the story of life. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I like that, man. I dig into a lot of like esoteric traditions and stuff like that. That kind of, it seems like from the outside looking into a lot of even secret societies and those who have come out and written about what they're all about and things like that. It's this acceptance of like that physical material reality is on some level some kind of play, some kind of theater
Yeah.
performance that we're
Yeah.
I'm sure you've read many quotes like with the masks we wear. You and I have talked about ego for years,
Yeah.
psychologically. It's just interesting. What do you think about that? Like we could all be in this fixed play.
Like
It's
the
interesting when
Truman
you
Show.
well, that's the thing. That's the crazy part, right? Because there's so many levels to it, right? And there's so many conspiracy theories out there that would suggest, this level of your experience is fake. No, this level of experience, like, oh, all the politicians are all fake. And, there's so many levels to this fakeness, right?
It's like,
But like being psychedelically tuned in, there is this mask of reality that's happening right in our experience, this veil or something
well,
like that.
we see everything through our perspective, right?
Yes.
And not a single other person will ever experience life the way that we do. And so I wonder sometimes if everything is put around me so I experience life the way that I am supposed to, or like, so I guess you could call it a play, but at the same, like I know other people are real, but I wonder if everything is put there and I'm here to learn some kind of lesson.
Right, like it's the most complex puzzle ever put together,
Yeah.
where like all of your needs and meaning that you are going to get out of this experience are bombarded up against everyone else's needs and what they're going to get out of their experiences, somehow completely independent yet coexisting at once.
That could be where conflict comes from.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
You know,
What came to mind for me was alchemy, and conflict. It's kind of, alchemy is like, two opposed, like, I mean, I'm butchering it because I'm not an alchemist, but like, these two different substances coming together to form this third greater substance.
Yeah.
That's my like very vague understanding. But like, I mean, that kind of seems like what everything is. Like this experience we're having right now is like this alchemical experience, almost like a conflict, but maybe that's again back to just perspective and perception.
Yeah. I wonder if like, when you die, you finally learn like that lesson that you've already known. If you know what I mean. And then you become that like thing that you were just talking about, where like you become into that oneness with everybody else. You know what I mean? After everyone is supposed to either learn the same thing or their own thing. And then like there were, what the hell was it? There was I think it was like Final Fantasy or some game I was playing, and like the way that they did life and death is like there's like a live stream, and we're all part of it. And then like when you die, you go back as like your soul enters this life stream until you go through and you're reborn again into like wherever you're supposed to go.
Right, yeah.
Something like that. And I think it was called like Gaia or something, coincidentally.
Yeah. Yeah, back when the term was still novel in Western culture.
Yeah, so when I saw the channel, I was like, is this a Final Fantasy channel?
Right. Dude, I find so much like symbolism in video games, whether it's like nefarious and put there because, I mean, shit, Bethesda is just as big as any other
video games have become
creepy corporation. Another perfect form of control and programming, obviously.
Yeah, they're ruined.
I mean, dude, but we say becoming, and we're close to our 40s. Wait, I think you are. You've breached that. Yes.
I've breached that wall. Yeah.
But we grew up with like Doom and Quake and like these dark video games. And it's like, I look back, it's been happening this whole time. I mean, shit, my favorite game, Doom, is about the end of the world, demons, all this shit.
Yeah. Marines on Mars.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Basically all the conspiracy theory that I just was too young to understand back then,
Yeah.
So it's been happening all around us, but man, yeah, it's heavy in the video games.
I mean, they definitely become, I feel like they used to be more of an art form and more pure, and they become this like, it's just another, I don't know, business model, just make money. And like they put out this half-fast bull crap that like sucks. Like the last complete really good game I played was Elden Ring. And that's
pretty recent though, right?
It's recent, but before that, I can't think. Who the hell knows? That's why I play like a lot of indie games.
Me too. That's where the talent is, it seems.
Yeah.
No offense to any developers working for bigger companies, but the fact that on YouTube every day I'm seeing like some new video about some single developer putting out some Unreal Engine 5 insanity.
It's great. Yeah, Unreal Engine 5 looks ridiculous.
It's insane what they're and that's it's funny too, because like in a lot of the topics I get into on the show, it rubs up against like, I don't know, as a lifelong lover of video games. Yeah. And then looking at this like transhumanist movement that's infecting every other part of society, including video games. Like it's interesting that that struggle between like, okay, how much of this can I enjoy before I'm like kind of feeding this, or am I always feeding this system? You know what I mean?
You're always feeding the system. There's no way not to.
Yeah, dude, it's weird because like I want VR, but at the same time, it's like it's just tied to so much nefarious shit. Eventually, one day, you're not gonna be able to sign into that shit without having like a fucking World Economic Forum tattoo or something.
You gotta scan your tattoo before you. I have a Oculus Rift, and it's pretty cool, but I don't really use it that much. But even that, like, what's Facebook? Did Facebook buy it?
Yeah, I think so. Meta.
Yeah.
So eventually, yeah, it's got to be all tied together eventually. So,
Yeah.
it's like, I guess the question is like, man, how long before it's all kind of removed from our hands unless we, are part of this very specific society that they're constructing here. But maybe we'll be like a little Ready Player One, a little bit of that grungy sci-fi look where we're just like renegades with like old tech and shit. And like,
see, I look at that and I think two things. One, I would play the crap out of that.
Yeah, man.
Two, that would be bad because I would probably never leave.
So you think so? So that's interesting that you think that, because I feel like we might be amongst at least the last generation that
before all that, you mean?
Well, yeah, before the temptation becomes like just part of everyday life. You know what I mean? I mean,
Well,
forget
I
my
feel like we're
son,
already
but people
going
that are
that way.
15, 16 years old right now, I mean, they've known nothing but the digital world
Oh, yeah.
surrounding them. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I feel like in some sense, like the COVID thing really set us up to be, what's a good term I could use? Like socially isolated.
Yeah, it was the
It's like
perfect
we're
problem.
social, but we're all in our own little pod.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Wall-E,
yeah,
the Disney movie.
Yeah, I never saw that, but
Don't see it. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like same with video games and movies and everything.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, I mean, you and me obsessed with sci-fi movies together, like going to see all the premieres together and shit.
Oh yeah, but we should.
So,
yeah, we have to do that again.
Yeah. Actually, The Thing is playing on Father's Day for the 40th anniversary. I mean, that's a far drive for you to come up to see me.
I'm going to be in town that day to see my father. Actually,
well, maybe we might have to arrange something.
Don't have to work Monday because I have a new schedule. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll have to rediscuss that. But it's like, we have.
Can I smoke this on?
Fuck here? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna pack something up myself.
It's just nicotine.
Well, that's fine. This isn't, but that's okay.
Okay.
I want to eventually like get endorsed by some like local fucking dispensary or something and get like a strain or something named the Deep Share. Or maybe I'll just grow my own Deep Share strain. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Somehow get like a license to. Probably not. I don't know. There's so many hoops that you have to jump through. The fact that you have to show your license like 6 times in those places, and then they have to legally give you a receipt and shit like that. It's so intense. I'm like, okay, why the hoops? Why always the hoops? It's almost like the law was like, all right, fine, you can smoke it, but you gotta like do a bunch of stupid shit first.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Oh, that's always like that.
That's always the case,
You need a license to go catch fish, Andy.
Dude, me and one of our buddies got in deep shit. Well, they thought we were in deep shit, doing that illegally. We tore the things up in front of the ranger. We're like, no, we're not paying for this. But that was an older time.
It's ridiculous. You need a permit to do everything now. You can't even, I'm surprised, you need a permit to like think.
Oh, that's coming.
I know.
But we got to let our hero Elon Musk take over with his brain chips and shit first.
I was on the Elon, whole like he's our savior thing for a little while, and now I'm like, not really.
Especially
sure
when
anymore.
I was like back, like really into science and stuff specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I was just obsessed with anything cutting edge. I'm like, Elon Musk is the man, And then recently, it's interesting to see him taking the positions that he is, and it's like
didn't he buy Twitter?
No, he's trying to, or something's happening. I don't know. But like, what's interesting about Elon, from what I've been paying attention to him, and it's like, he's just taking a certain side of this gigantic global issue of society that's happening right now. All the issues that you'd expect on like more conservative side of things. He's just promoting all of that. And I don't know. Or maybe I should take that back. More, it's like, he's acting as the perfect savior that's neither, or the best of both worlds, but he's also selling. He's making iRobot, and he's got Terminator in the sky, and he's literally doing all the things that the sci-fi movies we love have kind of prepared us for. And
he's a giant nerd with infinite amount of money.
Yeah, but
so
yeah, he's not the Tony Stark from the Tony Stark movies.
isn't
though,
he making a
He's-
chip that you put on the back of your neck or something? And
Yeah,
like
that's Neuralink.
yeah, that sounds horrifying.
That sounds pretty every post-apocalyptic dystopian future movie we've seen.
Yeah, because I mean, from that, I mean, where do you go from there? Jesus.
I mean, so that's kind of back to what we were saying before a little bit. I know we've skewed from the original topic,
Yeah, no, that's
but
fine.
that's exactly what happens here. Shit, I lost my train of thought there. Of course, switching gears, I literally lose my.
We were
train of
talking
thought.
about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And
Keep going.
and
What else was I saying?
the Neuralink thing.
Yeah, man. Like it's this divergence between like technology being a helpful tool to humanity,
Mhm.
which it's always been, whether it's a hammer or a quantum computer.
Yeah.
Like it's always a tool, but where's the line when the tool starts to become part of us?
Well, think about the hammer. You can use it to build something, or you can take someone's life.
Absolutely. So it all comes down to intention.
Yeah.
As most things do. And it's weird how like I think a lot of good people are like will get hoodwinked into more and more dangerous technology without that good intent because of like false intent being laid on top of it and shit. Because the spiritual community, man, is like rife with gatekeeping and shit like that. And it's in bed with this like transhumanist society that's like taking over and shit. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, when you say like transhumanist, can you describe that a little bit for me?
Yeah. So transhumanism is this singularity, this idea of cyborg, of man and machine being.
Oh.
Yeah. It's interesting though, right?
Like Terminator shit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, well, that's paired with, so I would say that's more AI. That's more of the AI side of things, which is also, right? So it's all happening at the same time. And the thing is so many good uses for these there's applications that are good through these technologies. But of course there's the other side of the fence where it's just going to control everything.
It's going to be like that with everything. Facebook has it's really useful, but it's also been really destructive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything that's part of the machine.
I mean, I can't imagine being in high school again, having Facebook. Like I used to get picked on all the time in high school. Like I can't imagine not being able to ever escape that. Like when I'm home, it just continues.
Yeah.
Like that would be a nightmare.
Terrifying.
I feel so bad for kids today. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're destined to like destroy ourselves because it's just it's everything we invent is used for good, but it's also used for bad. And I feel like eventually there's going to be that one bad that just that's it. Whether it's the Terminator scenario or
the RoboCop one
or the RoboCop one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, once I turn on the TV and see like an actual RoboCop, I'm done. I'm leaving and going somewhere. I don't know.
Well, so what's interesting or what you in particular may find interesting about the transhumanist agenda, and it's like linked to the spiritual ideas.
Is that basically to keep your consciousness alive for forever? So you don't die?
I would say that would be denied by most practical leaders that's where they want to go. No, Elon Musk ain't coming out and saying that and shit.
They're definitely using it for that.
Well, absolutely, of course. But I would say that like when you look at like people like Kurzweil and stuff like that, like philosophers or people that want to be philosophers talk about this kind of shit. They are talking about the limits of it and where they could go with it. And eternal life is absolutely it, but it's false. I mean, I think this would be might be a good way to kind of get back into where you and I really know each other, where it's like our experiences and our spiritual perspectives. Because to me, this idea, and what I was gonna say that might interest you, and I can dovetail it into what we're talking about here about the consciousness control. They're doing it subtly at first because all these new applications with VR and wearables and stuff like that can track everything, your heart rate and your mood, and they can offer things to soothe you. Or eventually you might have a chip in your head that can just turn on certain parts of your brain. So you don't have to.
Well, I mean, I was going to say if you're having a heart attack, but they already have a pacemaker.
So yeah. I mean, okay, so that's a great example of how like it's split, right? Because you could use this stuff for good application and like stopping physical things to happen like that.
Yeah.
Some however would argue that even that is too unnatural, right? But the pacemaker does exist, right? But this the thing in your head could easily turn on certain emotions, send endorphins.
It could cure depression.
Okay, so that's a beautiful way to put it, because I was taking it down a different path. I was going to say immediate fixes we're talking like immediate, like SSRI centers being triggered.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean,
like
okay, so you have a lot more.
All of a sudden, like have an orgasm.
You have a lot more experience than I have with this, because my perspective immediately goes to, oh, so no one's going to deal with their trauma. Oh, okay. So they're all going to continue to. So so isn't that an interesting point there? Because like what you're describing could be what it is right on the face of it. It could be a cure to depression, or it could be a fake euphoria. It could be that soma that's in Brave New World. Good question. Is it fake?
Because if it's real to you.
Oh man, but interesting point. Was the high that you had real to you?
Mm-hmm.
Was it constructive?
No, but so, like I take medication for depression and anxiety, and if I didn't take those, I would feel different in whether I'm taking them or not. Either both of them are real to me.
True. Okay. That's a really good perspective on this, because I'm always a gloom and doom.
I feel like trauma is a little bit deeper. Like trauma is like embedded like in your memory. So like, I guess if you could somehow erase those memories, like in what's that movie? Sunshine, Spotless Mind, or something with Jim Carrey.
Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
that's a heart wrencher. That's a big.
Oh man, I love that movie. But
that's what we're talking about here. That's technology doing that too.
But if you could do that and erase, I guess that's where, because I work with a lot of people who have serious trauma. Like
yes.
And when I say serious trauma, I mean like stuff that you hear about and that you don't think actually happens, and like it happens, like some brutal stuff. And if my reason why I do the job that I do is because I want to take that and help them with that and make them, not be okay with it, but like just feel better and not learn how to deal with those things. So like if who am I to blame somebody for taking something that could erase that for them?
That's totally fair.
Because that's essentially what they're doing with drugs. They're taking something to make themselves feel better because of the trauma that they experience.
True.
You know what I mean? So it's in a way like that, erasing your memory, it's sort of like a permanent drug, I guess, if you wanted to.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's
maybe
cool.
I went a little bit off the deep end there. But.
No, I like it. No, because it differs from my perspective in such a big way, but at the same time, like your experiences completely validate your reasoning, and I find it like kind of it helped me expand my perspective on it, because
cool.
A lot of times, and maybe it's just being centered in a perspective that looks at the world as kind of like an external force that can work against you, unless you are finding it within yourself and understanding your true reason and power and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting, because a lot of people would say, Well, the pharmaceutical industry that focuses on these antidepressants and maybe not anti-anxiety. I mean, shit. I mean, a lot of people get that, but the antidepressants specifically that might, like you said, erase rather than transmute. And maybe that's so. It's like, and now I was watching Stranger Things season 4, and we get to this point where 11 says, maybe I don't want to be whole to someone. I'm not going to give away too much because I know it's a recent
spoiler alert.
Yeah, no spoilers. But that statement right there was like, okay, well, I'm disregarding that a young actress is saying this. I'm thinking about the writers and what this all means.
Yeah.
That question's often not asked in any spiritual practice. It's like, well, what are you talking? No, you do the work. You go into the trauma, you take the trauma, you understand what you went through, you face it, you go into all the places in your mind that are sending you towards the dopamine escape, because all the places you're hiding from yourself are where all your true potential is and where the essence to your turning everything around is. So you understand where I'm going with that?
Sure.
So it's an interesting dichotomy, right? Because like what you're saying to me totally resonates, but at the same time, part of me feels like, well, what's missing from going through this more natural process? I don't know. Maybe it's always been natural to distract ourselves, right? Maybe.
I mean, I don't want to say what is natural, but like if I'm taking medication to help me with, let's say I'm taking medication to help me with my depression because I have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That medication, I still have to deal with the trauma.
Okay.
It helps me deal with the trauma, and it helps me become. It's like giving someone the tools that they need, or the armor or the weapons that they need to go in and fight that battle.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Instead of going in naked, punching it like a stone wall that you're never going to break.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think a number of people will still hear that, and they might say, well, that can all be done naturally, blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. But I would like to maybe put a bridge in between the two, which says that, and I've said this before on my show, I've said it to you, I find that a lot of the newer solutions to world problems, individual problems, a lot of the solutions, and they're not even new sometimes they're archaic and we're bringing them back finally or something after suppression. They're shit. Fuck. It was a good point too. And my brain just literally shut off.
Take a second. You'll get it.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
What the hell were we saying, man? That's ridiculous. Something you said, of course, sparked it, but yeah. So the bridge between these two is that, like, we're okay. I'm sorry, guys. We're caught up in this modern world and the traumas that we're all experiencing because of like a broken society or a bad civilization or whatever the problems have come from.
Sure.
We've all been dug into them for generations.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not congruent a lot of times. These newer solutions, these newer ways of life that we're maybe bringing back from old times, more naturalistic ways of doing things. Sometimes, it's like it doesn't fit with the modern lives we've all been put into just because.
It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think on an individual level, you can experience that, like going through something like psychedelics and coming out the other side and feeling ostracized.
Well, there's what's that stuff called? People go away, they do it. It's like 48 hours or something. They come out of it. It's supposed to cure your depression. Yeah. I've actually considered doing that.
Wow.
If I could. Well, I mean, I suffer from chronic depression and anxiety, and it's like, do I want to go through that 48 hours of facing myself? Because that's what I think it is. I think ultimately you just sit there and you have to face yourself. Um, but that's an ancient medication.
Right. Yeah.
What's the difference
Absolutely.
between that and like, whatever I'm taking now? I mean, there's a difference, of course, because
Right.
one's a pharmaceutical, one's a natural thing, but it's just, one's modern, one's ancient. They both still work. And, but as you're saying, like the ayahuasca, is that how you say it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's not really, like you're saying, it's not really congruent with modern times. You're not going to go into like a CVS and pick up a bottle of.
Yeah. And like a shaman's going to walk out with you and a couple people with pillows.
Yeah. But I think both methods work. And I think whatever method, whether it's natural or some form of medication, whether it's ancient or modern, if it works for that person.
Yes. Yeah. I like your attitude.
Mental health is it's a serious issue.
Yes.
It's like serious. Like I found out the other day that the suicide rate of children, like 7 to 10 or something like that, is skyrocketed. I can't picture being 7 years old and like thinking about killing myself.
It's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
That blows my mind.
Jesus Christ.
Like that, and a lot of that happened because of like the COVID, and they were isolated, and like that's a huge part of a child's life. Actually, is probably the most important is the socialization, growing up and finding out where they belong, like with their friends and in society and everything. When they don't have that interaction,
and the masks
screws with them.
No smiles, no frowns, no nothing, no facial expressions. These kids are still in places dealing with. It's absolutely insane. Insanity.
Isn't it funny how it just kind of went away?
Well, yeah, because we had to make room for the Ukraine thing, and it's all the current thing, whatever's making them money.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's I'm the conspiracy theory world is riddled with kind of like double agents, if you would, like controlled opposition kind of, and not even necessarily people that you meet and and you love and you get to know. It's that things that leak to us, information that gets out is, it's all like that. It's all to confuse and to cause chaos and everything. Well, and you hit on a great point that it's, everyone, that mental health is such a massive issue everywhere. And it's like, again, we come back to this incongruency where it's like, we know that it's the way society is treated. It's all of the problems that we talk about, but it's like, we're so dug into it. It's going to take a long fucking time to hit some stride where we all are in a place where like we understand what to do and to how to fix these problems once and for all. You know what I mean? It's going to be a long road.
I feel like we're kind of doomed in that sense because a lot of the pharmaceuticals and everything, they're meant to just put a Band-Aid on it instead of fix it.
Well, that's kind of the point I was kind of making before, and also the financial gain of who goes behind it.
Guarantee you, if they wanted to, they could just cure depression faster.
Yeah.
Cancer. But they don't, cancer for sure.
The water-powered cars are a big topic in the news right now because, there's a guy that
they killed him.
A security officer that was killed in the school at the school shooting that was making a water-powered car.
That's a great example. The school shooting. That's all mental health related. It's not the guns. It's the mental health.
Well, yeah, it is the mental health, and we could take this road or not, but like shit, man, the stuff that I'm seeing from sources that I'm finding, it's like, oh, that's interesting that both shooters recently were, in the same Discord, and they were both talking to this same contact in the Discord that just so happened to claim at least that they were former FBI and shit like that. It's just like, oh, that's interesting. And like, there was these parents that came out last month saying that like they had to try to sue the FBI or something like that for grooming their son into.
I was going to ask you if it was like a grooming, like not necessarily someone was like, I don't want to say like paid to do it, but like a grooming situation where like they took someone who was already mentally unstable and like groomed them into becoming.
Dude, think about
gave them the ideas and the means to do it.
Yes, dude, absolutely. Like, think about the devil, like the biblical devil, like the stories that you hear, right?
Fits it.
It always fits it, right? Because like it's this idea that he doesn't do anything. but he coaxes you into the bad decisions. It's all, hands off.
Yeah, it wasn't me, it was you.
Right. And it's interesting that kind of dovetails back into the spiritual awakening, the enlightenment, the realization that it's you. I think I've even showed it to you, maybe not, but like there's this great meme where it shows a kid crying with a boot on his head, and it says before spiritual awakening, and then it like zooms out and his hand's in the boot, and it's like after spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
So it's just it's interesting that, like, our own lives, our own awakenings, our own facing our own problems, it can be echoed out there in the world. Like a lot of times we can get caught up in the fear of, again, blaming the external world for all the problems.
Yeah.
But it comes back down to the person, right?
It does. It's making your own decisions, and just, I don't know, everyone just wakes up every day and does the best that they can with what they're given. Whether it has a good outcome or a bad outcome, I think that it's just human nature to wake up every day and just try to feel good.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So what's making you feel good these days, dude?
What's making me feel good?
Let's go there before we end, because we've been talking about a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah. I just bought my very first brand new car.
Nice.
I'm playing guitar again, which has been very, very difficult to do sober. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Like my brain wants to do it, but like my fingers won't. And when my fingers can do it, my brain doesn't want to do it. It's like the weirdest thing.
Wow.
I don't like the wife is good. The job is good. Like once I got sober, I started putting myself in situations, just not even knowing like where good things started happening to me. I stopped wasting my time and my money doing stupid, horrible shit and treating other people like shit, to like being in a position where like just good things happen. I mean, trust me, it's not perfect by any means. Like I struggle all the time. It's
part of being
have
human.
Moments where like, I still think about, using sometimes. I still think about, how like sometimes I just want to hit that self-destruct button and just,
I hear you, man.
Because it's I don't know, it can be difficult, but yeah, I mean, I got a lot of good things going for me.
That's really great to hear, man. Yeah, sometimes the hikes, the mountain trips would be difficult for me at first. For a while, it was hard to like get out in the wilderness away from my controlled setting.
Was it because it didn't interest you as much, or like
what, the going hiking?
Hikes? Yeah.
Oh no. That is where part of my soul is forever, is just at the very, very peak of a mountain, man. Absolutely. Like if I still hike, it's just very infrequent because how busy life is, you know what I mean? But I'm planning something for this summer. I mean, shit, join me. That'd be great.
I've been mountain biking.
Hell yeah.
So I'm in much better
meet you at the top.
shape. Yeah, and actually, even though I still vape, like I don't feel like a smoker anymore. I can actually exercise pretty well. So
that's great. That's great. Yeah. The hikes for me, it was like it was before I even got sober and even started thinking about needing to be or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, before that, it was always that like my hikes were just, I loved getting wasted on a mountain. I took pride in it. It was the ego taking pride in it. I was a badass. What, do you with me?
You had somebody with you to not tell you that it was bad.
Well, absolutely. Because we're talking about a beautiful friend of ours and I love his
I love him.
His undying spirit of, you can make every behavior work and not like lose your mind or die or ruin everyone else's lives around you. He's so gung-ho of like, no, you don't have to change anything, but he's evolved so like meticulously and beautifully.
Yeah, I know.
I love it.
Very true.
But no, it was always like, the pan ultimate, like get out there and fucking, we're getting fucked up and climbing. Who does that? No one does that. You get into any hiking group, mountaineering group, online, offline, everyone's eating granola and sharing trail stories. I mean, but it's just like we were the ones that were out there when no one else was. Like, there's no one on this mountain right now. Yeah. We almost died multiple times.
Yeah.
Doing that. You know what I mean?
And I went winter hiking with you, and because we were drinking and stuff like that, you and I got into a not so good situation, and then our relationship got kind of rocky with that other person.
Yes, dude.
Remember?
That was intense. Yeah. And
that was because of the drinking.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. And what initiated it for me on a physical level was because I was wasted way too early in the hike. That was our biggest hike too. We had you with us. We had a bunch of new people that don't normally go hiking with us. This was a party on the mountain.
Yeah.
So that was even worse. Right. So I was probably half a bottle deep at the point where I just decided, not accidentally, to walk through frozen water.
Yeah. And you were like, I'm wet and cold. I said, yeah.
I went on for another 4 miles.
You did, but I looked at you
dark.
and you were not doing good, and I had to get you out of there.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, we could always depend on each other as friends to kind of know when someone was when each other was hitting.
Well, you were turning colors. It was good.
Yeah, that's fun. But the thing is, it's interesting, that mentality that we were up against, and that caused that conflict for months between us and our other friend.
Yeah.
Because his mentality was like, there is no turning around for anything. And I have gained a lot from his perspective on that. Like, I did become a better mountaineer because of him, and probably because of that hike for sure. But yeah, back to the original point of getting out there into that prime zone, trying to separate that from alcohol for a while was a very difficult thing.
Well,
it became a great strength instead of a weakness,
That's probably with guitar for me. I always associate it with getting fucked up and playing guitar. You know what I mean?
So good fucked up, man. You were writing beautiful things.
Thank you. But hey, I meant to ask you a question, totally off topic. You were talking about something on your podcast where you took something, I think it might have been DMT or something, not you specifically, but some when people take that, they see an eyeball creature or something like that.
An eyeball creature? Well, DMT, Terrence McKenna and a lot of other people throughout time now have kind of given DMT elves or
machine
elves or entities, different names, but
it was this eyeball thing that wouldn't let somebody pass.
Oh, I think that might be a biblical interpretation, or at least a Gnostic interpretation of the
I saw a picture of what an actual angel looked like. And
that's what it
eyeball
is.
Creature, and I made the connection, and I was like, ooh, I got to tell Andy about this.
Dude, yeah. All right. Hell yeah, man. My friend and I dig into some of the etymology of words like that and shit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to find that the word angle and angel come from the same root.
Really?
In the oldest of languages, of Proto-European languages and stuff like that. It's nuts. And how
are those related?
Well, because when you trace it back, they trace back to simply representing a circle or a curve or something like that. Okay. And then when you think about that description of angels and the importance of geometry in Freemasonry and how spiritually connected that whole situation is, there's a lot of loose ends that I obviously didn't say that would have to fit in there, but there's a lot to that. There's a lot to this aspect where it's, when biblical people experienced that, it could be interpreted as sacred geometry or a psychological experience, like a psychedelic. Even Rogan talks about how, the acacia bush is what turns into the burning bush, and the acacia tree is where you can get DMT out of. And it's oh, how convenient. Yeah. It's just a coincidence. I'm sure. Yeah. So it's all connected in a very beautiful way.
It's interesting. One thing I saw a lot of shapes when I was hallucinating. If I closed my eyes, I would just see shapes and symbols. I had no idea what they meant. I just saw it. I mean, I probably did at the time, but I remember just seeing a lot of, just symbols, animals, shapes. I don't know.
Well, I remember emotion. I remember the only animals I would see were running animals, things that would create this motion. It's a perpetual motion when you're tripping. To me anyway, there's always this underlying grid system or something. It's it's hard to describe,
No,
obviously.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's almost like you're just seeing how things are actually constantly moving and alive and vibrant and beautiful, and you can't make sense of it. Your logical brain is like breaking down.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Like that's when I ate like somewhat accidentally, I ate like an entire bag of brownies in Dee's basement for my 30th birthday.
I remember that.
And
I remember. Wow, you just like made me have like a butterfly effect moment where like grew a memory.
I remember going up to Dee and said, "Hey, can you put Pink Floyd on, because I understand how molecules work." I was like,
I feel like we like perpetually said that for a while. Back to you.
Yeah, because like I had figured it out in my head. I'm like, it all makes sense because I remember I could visually see them. Like, I don't know. It was,
dude. No, I remember a time in that very same basement where you were sober and I was telling you and a couple other people all about how it all makes so much sense and it's so funny. It's hilarious.
Seems to be the reoccurring thing, though, is like when you're hallucinating. Like anytime I've been around somebody and I'm sober, or vice versa, it all makes sense.
Yeah. I remember you and I specifically showing one of our other friends who was tripping for the first time in that very basement, like, "Hey man, look at that clock over there. What do you think of that?" Yeah. And I remember, unmistakably, this like childish awe come over their face, and then this deep curiosity, almost concern, and that's when I knew the mind was starting to go. And I'm like,
because when you're an infant, you don't know what time means.
Of course not. That's what's weird. I always kind of pictured some of my psychedelic experiences felt like the experience itself like rewinds you, like a wind-up toy.
Yeah.
Like your mentality goes somehow back to like the beginning, and you like, you have to like regrow up again or something like that.
Yeah. Or like you exist again, like as you did either while you were an infant or before.
And then you realize time doesn't exist. So you're an infant and an old man and yourself at the same time. Did you ever look at a mirror with psychedelics? Did you ever have any mirror experience?
Absolutely horrifying.
I've heard so many stories like that.
I don't like faces. I just don't like. I don't know. I can't describe it. I just.
Yeah. Goes back to that eye thing, right? I mean, I remember seeing a lot of eyes like peeking out of my ceiling, opening and closing all the time. That was multiple trips. Like eyes are definitely a big thing. You think about like Tools artwork and Alex Gray and shit.
Oh yeah,
always drawing that eye. It's very interesting. It's just so good to like sit here and chat with you, man. It's been way too long since we got to.
I had something. I was like, I need to talk about this because you triggered something in my head, and I just.
Always happens on this show, man. It's the ether. We're just like literally like floating in the ether right now, and thoughts are coming and going. And that's how the deep share rolls. But I mean, you being a history major, I could have you on for a whole nother episode. We could like fucking blow each other's minds on history stuff. Cause
I love talking. I love talking history.
Like I was fascinated by history, like as a kid and growing up, and even before my eyes were open to a lot of the lies of history. So like, I'd be curious where we would go with that.
The one
you could
thing
also, debunk a number of things about the past. I'm sure.
The one thing that always sticks in my head when learning history is it's always written by its victors.
Exactly. There's no way around that.
And a lot of our history has a very Eurocentric point of view. It's written from, you know what I mean? So there's so much that we just don't know. And absolutely. I don't know if we're ever going to know. And that part bothers me because I love history so much. So.
Yeah, there's a disconnect. There's an absolute disconnect in many places.
I was going to say something about.
Fuck. That's my fault, man. My fault.
No. That's all right. Oh, that's what it was. When I was a kid, like up until I was like 6 or 7 years old, I could make myself hallucinate.
Dude, we've had that we've talked about that.
So
yeah.
I remember waking up in the morning, and occasionally I would have these mornings where like if I just woke up and I would go back to sleep fast enough, I could feel my body like shut down and like a giant weight, and I couldn't move, and I'd be in my dream, and I knew I was sleeping, but I couldn't do anything about it. I don't know if I don't think it's sleep paralysis, but it's something. And then
that does sound like sleep paralysis.
And then, but it wasn't. There was no like demon monster or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
And it would always be like the same reoccurring dreams that I would have. And then if I woke up, I could sit at the end of my bed and like do this thing with my eyes and like my brain, whatever I was doing, and I could see like fish and like I could like all these shapes like in my room moving around. And it was as real as this is, you know. And it was for some like it just stopped the older I got, you know.
Right.
But,
distraction.
Yeah, and I wonder, I was like, what part of my brain was I activating while I was doing that when I was a kid? You know, that like the older I got and the more it got filled with so much bullshit that I just lost the ability to do that.
Dude, you're literally talking about like the state of being before the trauma infects our lives.
Yeah, to go all the way back to what we were talking about like an hour ago. Sure.
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you think about it, that's what it can be transmuted into. I mean, back to that. And they often say like a lot of spiritual traditions, I think it's in the Bible, it's in all of them. They talk about this childlike wonder and getting back to it. And that's the only way to kind of enter the kingdom of heaven,
well, even
or become
like
enlightened.
In Christianity, they say you need to have like a childlike faith.
Yes.
Like you just believe, you know,
out of awe.
Yeah, believe like, you know, in like a child, not a childish, but like they always say like a childlike faith or something.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Pre-ego. Yeah. That's no, that's a great way to put it, because I think before your ego develops, that's when you can probably, I'm losing it. You could
maybe that's when you make magic happen or something.
Yeah, like I saw this meme one time and it really cracked me up. It said, maybe magic does exist, but there's no mana left.
Dude, I remember you sent me that a long time ago that we just ran out of mana, and I loved that because
but you could
either we ran out of it or it was bred out of us.
Yeah, you can interpret that in so many different ways.
Hell yeah, man. What is mana? I mean, shit,
yeah,
books written about that too.
It could be something that's inside of us that we have that we just lost the ability to use. Yeah,
absolutely. Latent.
I would love to throw a fireball.
Dude, I'm glad. I'm so happy that you're listening to the podcast, because like my podcast life, like the tethers to my real, real. I shouldn't say that because it's very real, but my old world, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Few and far between, man. You know, like you're one of the only ones, and I don't blame anyone for not listening. I don't really even encourage. But like I appreciate it. I really do, because at least that way.
It's fascinating, man. And that's the way my brain works on the same like wavelength, so to speak.
Yeah, you've always been interested in the same kind of things. You know?
I like questioning everything and thinking about things, you know, in a deep way, and having people to talk about those sort of things with. Like I found out that my coworker is the same way as we are, and it's the craziest thing, because he's like this 60-year-old guy. You would never think, like, just by looking at him, you'd be like, you're into what? You'd be like, yeah, man, Pizzagate. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Well, it's like, do you remember that scene in Waking Life where the dude's walking by the railroad tracks and this other guy just gets out of the train car and is like, you a dreamer?
I need to watch that again.
I know, right? Me
that
too.
Was the night that I watched that. I did the light switch thing and it worked.
Oh fuck!
That's it really nuts. And it scared the shit out of me. Once I realized I was dreaming, I'm like, oh my god! Because like, I remember in my dream, I got this like, I was flying around because I wanted to fly. Because who doesn't? You know,
right?
And then I ended up. All of a sudden, it just ended when I panicked too much, and I ended up in this dark room. And like I went like this with the light, like it was one of those like lights or whatever. And it took me a second, and it was myself staring back at me, basically telling me that I shouldn't be here. And it was like the craziest. I was like, all right, I'll fucking leave. That's fine. I'm out of here. I am so out of here. But yeah, that actually worked. I haven't tried it since, but
We love that.
I've always had that part of my brain that just like loves to just experiment with things and
hell yeah. Well, that's kind of
and,
what brought us to some of the dangerous shit from our past. We were willing to take risks.
Oh,
I think now going through all the issues, would you say that now we know how to take the risks, or we I don't know, we can more, I don't know, maturely choose the right risks to take?
well, that's what I said about knowing your limits and knowing your demons, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about knowing, like because I've been thinking about, smoking weed again, just sometimes, like maybe at night when I play guitar or something like that. If I ever do that and I'm like, maybe I should drink or like pop a pill with it, like I'm stopping immediately.
Right.
Like there'll be no.
Or if maybe I should do this all day long.
Yeah, no.
Where you are right now, that would be exactly.
Oh God, no, I'm completely.
I'm there, man. I'm not there. I work all day, but more.
Even right now talking to you, I can tell that like you're not the same as you were when we lived together, where you were basically like intravenously feeding yourself vodka.
I was trying to be the entire Motley Crue concert. I remember one time, like I came home from work. It was like Friday night, which I was working second shift back then too.
Yeah, so, that's rough.
I would get home at like 12:30, and I would be like, Friday night. And you're like, I'm just gonna play some like fucking Diablo or whatever, go to sleep or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, no, come on, man.
Well, because by 12,
are you all right?
Yeah.
Look, I was like taking, full bottles of Tito's vodka.
Oh, you were. You used to have me like stopped and buy you some on my way home from work. Like, hey, it's gonna close. Can you grab some? And I'm like, I'm enabling you as I go to the cash register. But I'm like, I'm also fucked up myself. So
yeah,
can't say anything.
Yeah, like that I remember you and me would like have purposeful like enabling moments, like we would just accept it to each other's faces.
But you were the person that I could go to and be like, Andy, I'm fucking up.
Yeah.
Like because you and I feel like we had a lot of the same childhood too, like parents and stuff like that. Like we really connected over that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
I think we've had very similar trauma in a way.
Yeah.
Just emotional trauma. We'll go with that.
Those were all those times sitting with 40s in the car talking about all those traumas.
Because I used to watch the things that you were going through and just be like, God, this is exactly
right.
Either what happened to me or what's happening to me.
And that's always how I would kind of describe our interaction to other people. Like he's literally my older self. It's
Yep.
It was helpful. I mean, in some ways,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember my car. I would just walk to your house. It took me like 20 minutes or half hour.
Yeah, man.
Shit. Where are you going? It's 11:30. Andy's house.
Yeah, seriously. Why is Andy in the driveway at like 1 a.m? Don't worry about it. God, yeah. Just crazy times, man. No, I really appreciate you coming on here, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully it was entertaining.
I hope so. Listening. I mean, I just wanted to do it regardless, and I still would love to have you and D on and just have a fun time. Yeah. I think that would be fucking wild.
I think I would be very interested to hear the things that come out of his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, obviously I've been doing this for a year. I kind of got a theme in general, but like it all stems from, our experiences together for the most part, you know what I mean? So like we could frame it towards like crazy psychedelics.
Well, it's just a good excuse to hang out.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's funny. Before I even started this podcast, remember D was the one that was trying to get us all on Zoom when the pandemic first started.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I never got a chance to do it, but now it's funny turning around being like, hey man, you want to do this?
I think I did it once.
Yeah.
And it was just depressing for me. I'm like, this sucks. I just want to see people in person.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because like, years past, I'm just like, man, this solitude is kind of beautiful as well. Especially with a busy life,
It's dangerous when you get comfortable in it, though.
You think so?
I
Too much
think we're naturally supposed to be like social beings. Because I love my isolation. Don't get me wrong. I think my wife gets upset with me sometimes because.
Right here, yeah. I hear that, but
I think too much isolation can be dangerous.
Yeah, my wife and I also do that, like where we both love our isolation, our alone time, especially as parents too. It's
Oh yeah, 'cause you guys are
tenfold, you know.
exhausted.
And but like yeah, you just kind of come back together. That's a good way to
Yeah.
describe it, you know. But yeah, this was really great, man. I
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate it. And you know, we share a lot of, yeah, like you said, we share a lot of similar kind of I don't know, understanding of the way the world is. And I appreciate you, brother. I really do.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate you too, man.
if anybody does want to like find you, if you want to, would you want to be found? Would you want your info to be out there? If you do, by all means. If not, then
yeah,
I will not allow you to be found.
I have a Facebook.
Word.
My full name, Michael Depalo. And then I have to look because I have one picture and I never use it, but if people want to contact me, I will look at it. My Instagram, hold on one second.
Cool. Yeah, I never see you on that shit.
It's mdeps32, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, you're a counselor. You've been through the ringer and you come out the other side. And I'm super proud of you, man.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
proud of proud of where we are right now, man.
Yeah.
It feels a lot better.
It feels a lot better sitting here than in your car. No offense.
Yeah, the car was fun. The 40 was gross.
But we needed those times in your car to get where we are.
I truly believe that.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well,
all right, man.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. And see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay?